G'day, ZiggyD here. So I'm sure most of you guys by now have seen the patch 1.0.7 update blog, which isn't the official patch notes yet, but sort of showing us what they're going to be putting in patch 107 and some of their ideas behind it, which is pretty good, interesting insight because it shows some of their decision-making process and things like that. And it's full of interesting stuff. But today I want to take a look at two very specific things: the new crafting recipes and some of one of the changes to monster power, and how they take a look at how they interact with each other. Now, the fact that this is the most interesting part to me of the entire blog post might actually be a bit of a surprise to some of you guys, because I'm sure you've probably seen some of my PvP craft and my PvP theory crafting videos and things like that. And while I was and am still fairly excited for PvP, I have to be a bit honest. I was a bit disappointed that there didn't end up being a matchmaking system coming with this patch. I was really hoping that dueling would be 1v1 dueling, maybe possibly with some sort of matchmaking system that either rated you on gear or on your match history and things like that, or even without that, just an actual matchmaking system. But what looks like is actually happening is it's based on your current party, so you have to go find people to duel against yourselves. So you're pretty much going to be restricted to your friends list or people you can find in external places. And I think a big problem with Diablo 3 at the moment is the fact that most of the community is in these external places rather than in the game. So I'm a little bit disappointed about that, but it's still going to be fun. It's free for all in case you haven't seen that, so it's still going to be a lot of fun. And maybe some sort of dueling community will develop, and that will be awesome. But hopefully in the future they implement some sort of matchmaking system and things like that. But in this video, I'm going to talk about something else that's exciting me about this patch, and it's the new crafting recipes and the monster power experience changes. So the first thing I want to talk about with this crafting is a lot of people have been mistakenly saying or thinking that this is going to be some sort of additional Hellfire crafting system like the Hellfire Ring. While it has some in common with the Hellfire Ring in the fact that it's account bound, and it's going to be using account bound droppable items, these demonic essences, which is a really cool idea, but I'll get into that a little bit later. That's actually the only similarity with the Hellfire. It has the potential to roll best in slot for these certain items, but there are actually still rare items. While it even says rare in the actual blog post. However, I think some people maybe thought that this meant that the recipes were rare or hard to find. I actually think that this means that they're the actual rare tier, which is cool also because it means we'll be able to dye them. That shouldn't be very cool because you should be able to dye legendaries, but that's cool nonetheless. So these new 107 rare crafting recipes will be account-bound gloves, pants, wrists, a chest piece, and an amulet. Now I think for a lot of these slots, especially the pants, possibly the wrists for most class, and definitely the chest pieces, are still going to be overtaken by legendaries for the vast majority of players. This is simply because the legendaries in these slots really offer stats that you can't get on rares, and I think it's fairly safe to assume that these rares, while it mentions they can have higher base stats, sort of similar to the Hellfire Ring, so they'll definitely be best in slot when compared to other rares. They won't have access to those other stats like crit chance or move speed on pants like with the Inner's pants and other legendaries and stats like that come from those legendaries. So while these will be an improvement over the current rares, especially a massive improvement over the current rares that you can craft, they're not going to be able to compete with some legendaries still. However, it is possibly going to increase the variety and make crafting a bit more interesting, and it's going to give us something to do for a while, so I'm definitely looking forward to that. So the account-bound gloves and the amulet, I think, are going to be the really important Archon pieces for crafting account-bound. The amulet especially, with the ability to roll higher main stat or Vite and things like that, combined with the stats that rare amulets can already get and the fact that rare amulets are still pretty much best in slot for most people, I think that's especially going to be a high value item that a lot of people are going to be pursuing. And when I say value, I just mean value to the individual, because obviously these are account bound and they can't be sold or traded or anything like that. The gloves also have a fair bit of potential because currently there really aren't any good legendaries in the glove slots, and most players will be using raw rolled rares at the moment, so people will be trying to roll these Archon gloves as well, because if they can get that higher main stat in addition to their trifecta gloves, then that's going to give them a huge advantage. So we don't currently know everything that's going to be involved in crafting these items. Like, they might still, and I assume they are going to still involve the use of essences and possibly even brimstones, which I think Blizzard would really want to do that because they want to keep that market liquid, and if it's if it's not, then people are going to have massive stocks of these items and no way or no reason to sell them. So I think they'll get used. But the most important and exciting part is this demonic essence, these account bound drops that come specifically from Elite. So we've got a 20% chance to drop at monster power 0, and this increases with the higher monster powers. So this is giving us even more incentives to farm at higher monster powers, which is really cool, because at the moment, monster power 0 is the most efficient thing for everything but Hellfire crafting. Now this also combines really nicely with what I've got on the other side of the screen here, which is this experience increase for higher monster powers. This increase is pretty huge. We're going up from to 25% from 10% in monster power 1, and all the way up to 500% from 160% in monster power 10. This is a huge increase, and it potentially means that it's actually going to be a lot better for experience to try and struggle through higher monster powers, or to do the highest monster power you can do reasonably quickly, rather than to farm monster power 0. Now I don't mind farming monster power 0, but it's nice, and it promotes a bit of build diversity, for me especially, if I can have the opportunity to farm high monster powers and know that that's going to be reasonably efficient and exciting, also because I'm getting these demonic essences. So the combination of this increased experience and demonic essences is going to be very exciting, and I think it's a great addition to the monster power system. So the last sort of part of this whole crafting thing that is also really exciting, and the reason I'm excited for this, even though it's potentially just busy work, but the way that it's going to allow us to play the games in more interesting ways, I think, is the most exciting part. And here we have even more reasons to kill bosses. Well, we didn't really have any reasons to kill bosses before, but now we're going to have some. So the recipes, obviously acquiring things like the glove recipe and the amulet recipe is going to be the first order, the first order of business when the actual patch hits. It's going to be something I'm testing a lot in the PTR as well. But basically, you have to get your 5 stacks of Nephilim Valor, and then from each of the bosses, Skeleton King, Spider King, Sardea, Izual, all of those have a 50% chance to drop the recipes, which compared to what will probably be a very small chance to drop the recipes from actual, from elites or trash mobs even, 50% is a very, a fairly high percent. You might have to kill them twice or 3 times or 4 or 5 times if you're very unlucky. So there's also an interesting point which actually Moldrin pointed out in this, was that Rakanoth, it's impossible to get 5 stacks and go fight Rakanoth, so why would they have included that in the list if that's the case? What this suggests is that there's going to be, and they've mentioned this in the past as well, this isn't just coming from nowhere, that they're going to be able to make it so that Nephilim Valor stacks can continue across acts. Now what I'm really hoping that this means is that we can use the waypoint system to waypoint between the acts. That would be so good if that happens. The worst possible way that they could do it is to have it so that we have to progress through the game in the linear fashion following the storyline, and I'm like 50% sure they're going to do that, so I really hope they don't follow that. But with the trend that they've been following with every other design choice in the game is following the storyline all the time. But if they make it so you can waypoint between acts, that will be awesome, because getting 5 stacks in Act 3 and then actually being able to go to Act 1 with those 5 stacks and kill some bosses and fight some more elites, and then go to Act 2 even and do a few more bosses there, and even go to Act 4 and kill Rakanoth and Izual, that will be super exciting, so I really hope that happens. Now actually there might be a good chance that happens. This patch includes a lot of community feedback. A lot of the things in this patch is like, even this demonic essence is an idea that's been specifically talked about by different people in the community at different times over the past couple months. So I think they've really listened a lot in this patch and taken a lot of the ideas from the community and put it into this patch, and just like, oh, they're stealing our ideas, but who cares? They're adding these awesome things into the games, which we've been asking for, so that's sick. While I was initially not too excited about the idea of account-bound items, that was initially when I was thinking from a league perspective, like Diablo 2 with leagues being reset, items are being circulated out of the economy. But in Diablo 3 that doesn't happen. That's sort of just a fact of life. I don't think they're going to change that. So having account-bound items that actually gives us something to work towards that can't just be purchased normally from the auction house, I think having these account-bound items is okay. So I think this demonic essence thing especially is really cool. It's going to give us an extra reason to hunt down elites especially, and it's going to make for some interesting elite hunting experiences in high monster powers with certain niche elite and boss killing builds in high monster powers. I'm pretty excited for this. I'm definitely going to be doing a lot of testing for it on the PTR. So just to sum up everything, we've got Archon crafting, eye level 63, crafting potential with potentially the ability to choose what main stat we want, and then similar to the Hellfire Ring Star where you choose, in fight, strength, etc. And then we've got demonic essences to craft these items, which will drop from elites. They have 20% at monster power 0, with more incentives, including the experience incentives as well, to hunt down elites in higher monster powers. And then we're getting the plans for these monster powers from bosses when we're having 5 Nephilim Valor stacks and possibly being able to waypoint between acts. And all of this I'm very excited for. So although I was a little bit disappointed for the way that they're choosing to implement PvP dueling for now, this is still a good step in the right direction, and they can always add in extra things for PvP, and I'm 100% sure they will. But this, I think, crafting now, for me, is the focus of patch 1.0.7. So if you guys have any ideas or questions about the changes in this patches, but especially this crafting stuff, then feel free to leave them in the comments below, and I'll interact with you guys there as always. Anyway, that's it for today. I'm ZiggyD, and thanks for watching.